Welcome. If you found yourself here, chances are you're considering diving into the world of Russian language learning, or perhaps you've already taken the plunge. But here's probably the catch. Amidst the excitement, one question remains for you. How long will it take me truly to master Russian? How many hours per week do I need to commit to achieve fluency? In this video, I'll be breaking it down for you. I'll show you the 4 crucial factors that determine your Russian learning timeline and share strategies to accelerate your progress. Crucial factor shaping your Russian learning timeline is your prior experience with language acquisition. If you're completely new to language learning, it's natural to expect a longer journey ahead. Without prior exposure to learning languages, your brain may need more time to grasp vocabulary, grammar rules, and other linguistic nuances. Think of language learning as a skill. Just as someone advanced in cooking might swiftly master a new recipe, those familiar with language learning may find themselves more skillful at acquiring Russian. If you've studied Ukrainian, Serbian, Bulgarian, or any other language related closely to Russian, you'll find that you'll probably have a fast and smooth Russian language learning experience. This is because a lot of words and grammar structures are similar or the same in Slavic languages. So, the rule of thumb is simple. You'll be faster at learning Russian if you've studied a language before, and you'll be even faster if you've studied a Slavic language before. If you're wondering, Slavic languages are as mentioned Ukrainian, Serbian, and Bulgarian. But there are of course way more. For example, Belarusian is another one. Slavic languages are mostly spoken in East Europe. If we want to be precise here, we do have to say that Russian isn't technically a Slavic language, but rather an East Slavic language. But at the end of the day, it's practically the same. Okay, moving forward, the second major point to determine how long it will take for you to learn Russian are your language learning methods. By now, I've actually done quite a few videos on this topic. If you're interested, I'll link them in the video description. For that reason, I'll keep this segment short and precise. In my opinion, the fastest way to learn any language from scratch is an optimized form of the natural language learning approach. This approach consists out of 3 main parts: the language buddy method, vocab learning with spaced repetition, and a trip to a Russian-speaking country. First, let's look at the Russian buddy method. Simply put, a Russian buddy is a partner with whom Russian learners can engage in conversations, practice speaking, and exchange insights about their respective cultures and languages. One of the best aspects of the Russian buddy method is its accessibility. Russian buddies can be found everywhere, from family members and friends to colleagues and classmates. Whether it's a cousin who grew up speaking Russian fluently or a close friend with a shared interest in Russian learning, there are a lot of opportunities to connect with potential Russian buddies in our existing social circles. Additionally, online language exchange platforms and local community groups offer avenues for finding Russian buddies. The advantage of the Russian buddy method is clear. It provides you with authentic exposure to the target language in real-world contexts. Through regular conversations and interactions with your Russian buddies, you can gain practical experience in using the language naturally, improving your speaking and listening skills in the process. The second part of learning Russian with the modified natural language learning approach is complementing the Russian buddy with dedicated vocabulary learning, using software applications like Anki, Quizlet, or Memrise. They can significantly enhance the effectiveness of your Russian language learning journey. These vocabulary learning tools offer a structured and systematic approach to building your vocabulary repertoire, allowing you to expand your word bank and improve your language proficiency at your own pace. Anki, for example, utilizes spaced repetition learning techniques to help users memorize vocabulary more efficiently by presenting flashcards at optimized intervals based on the user's performance. Anki ensures that words are revisited just as they're about to be forgotten, reinforcing long-term retention. The third part to learning Russian effectively is going abroad. If you've built up a solid foundation through your Russian buddy and software applications like Anki, consider going to a Russian-speaking country. While Anki aids in vocabulary retention and the language buddy method provides valuable conversational practice, immersing oneself in a Russian-speaking environment helps you acquire the language way faster. Additionally, you can experience the country's culture, which is most of the time a fascinating experience. Okay, so now that we've covered how I think you can acquire Russian the fastest way possible, think about your own situation. Are you learning Russian this way at the moment, or are you taking a completely different approach, for example by doing tons of grammar exercises? While many people think that doing grammar exercises will help them gain fluency, I would argue that actually the opposite is the case. I've been studying French for many years now with the grammar approach, but every time I have to form a simple sentence on my own, I'm completely lost. Through this approach, I now know how the most complicated grammar rule works, but I wouldn't be able to order a singular croissant in Paris. If you want to stick with the grammar approach or another language learning approach, do your thing. I won't stop you. But you have to be aware that it will probably take you forever to acquire Russian. The third point is that you have to clearly formulate for yourself what your fluency goal is. If you're a couple of months into your Russian learning journey and then ask yourself how much longer it will take, you'll realize that you don't even know what finished with learning Russian means for you. You don't know if you'll be done with learning when you can order a vodka shot, or having mastered Russian means for you to sound like a native speaker. If you don't know when you'll be finished, you'll lose motivation very quickly, because you can't see the finish line. What I would recommend is that before studying for a singular hour, you ask yourself what your ambitions are. Is it actually realistic to sound like a native speaker after only a year of studying? Well, these are questions you have to answer yourself. The fourth and most important point is your studying consistency and intensity. No matter which studying method you use, you'll always have to put in the hours. From a certain point on forward, you've optimized your learning environment as much as possible, and you now have to actually start studying. But not only the amount of hours you invest into studying is important, but actually how consistently you study as well. If you sit down once a week and study for 2 hours straight, you'll acquire less of the language than if you study for 20 minutes each day. But even these 20 minutes each day won't lead to an outcome if they are not spent learning intensively. If you go on your phone every 2 minutes, you will neither learn any Russian nor remember a singular TikTok you watched while you were supposed to study. So, generally, the more you study, the better. But don't study once a week. Rather, try studying a little bit each day. And of course, try to study intensively. Focus on the task on hand. You can scroll through TikTok afterwards. Okay, so now that you know which components affect your language learning duration, I'll introduce you to a simple way of calculating how many months it will take you to acquire Russian. Generally speaking, it takes about 300 hours to reach an A2 level. At this level, you can introduce yourself, you can use basic sentences, and so on. I would estimate how many hours you will study a week. If you study really intensively, add some extra time on top. So if you invest 12 hours a week, but these hours are spent in deep focus, pretend as if you studied 14 hours. If you've studied a Slavic language before, chop away a couple of hours from the 300. If you use the grammar learning approach, you'll probably need at least double the amount of time to reach an A2 level, so about 600 hours. Now you have to add up the hours. Let's say you study 10 hours a week and you've studied Belarusian before. You'll probably only need about 250 hours to reach an A2 level. 250 divided by 10 equals 25. This means you'll need about 25 weeks, which is about half a year, to reach an A2 level. Of course, if you want to reach a higher proficiency level, you will have to spend a lot more time. If you want to become near mother tongue level, you'll have to invest somewhere around 1,500 hours. So, now the only thing left for you to do is start studying.